Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all are having a wonderful morning. We need everybody to take their seats. We'll be starting our presentation soon. Thank you. It's amazing how a little clink clink from a glass can get everybody's attention. So thank you again. So I would like to welcome, I'm getting a cue to talk even louder, which is really unusual for me because I am naturally a really loud talker. So much so that my husband walks away from me most of the time. So I want to welcome you all to the 2023 Designer of Distinction. I'm the president of the Garden Club of Jacksonville, and it is my joy to welcome you to this fabulous event. The Designer of Distinction is an annual fundraising event that presents an expert in the field of floral design, demonstrating and discussing his work. We are thrilled to have Lacey to educate, engage, and entertain you today. At this time, I'd like to take a few moments and recognize some very special people that are in attendance today. We have past presidents, and once I say your name, if you don't mind just taking just a brief stand. Past President Irene Woodworth. Past President of the Garden Club of Jacksonville, Charlene Hughes. And we have Jan Sillick, the past FFGC president. I'd also like to recognize Gloria Nunn, our honorary chair of the Designer of Distinction. Gloria is also a past president of the Garden Club of Jacksonville and a passionate advocate of the Garden Club and its mission. Please join me again in thanking Gloria for everything that she has done for the Garden Club and is still doing as she enters her 90th year. Please stop and thank Gloria for her long life contributions to the Garden Club. I'd also like to thank Daniel Nunn Jr., Gloria's son, who is sponsoring today's event with a generous donation. We are so grateful to him for continuing to support the Designer of Distinction. I want to give a big shout out to the members of the Rose Garden Circle who pulled together the beautiful decorations for this event. The centerpieces on your tables are available for sale after lunch. They are $20 and proceeds go to the Garden Club of Jacksonville. Let's give the Rose Circle a big round of applause. I'd also like to thank Karen McCombs. Karen McCombs has been very helpful and thinking of our 100th anniversary at all of our events this year. And Karen McCombs is also a member of the Rose Circle. So thank you, Karen, for making the 100th Nina Cummer birthday party celebration such a success, blooms, and all that you've done. So next up was not on my agenda until just super recently, and I was able to share this exciting news yesterday at our last trustee meeting of the Garden Club year. So last week, a couple of people from the Garden Club of Jacksonville were in Orlando for the FFGC annual convention. At that time, I'm getting chills just thinking about it, the Garden Club of Jacksonville was honored to take home the Garden Club of the Year Award for the state of Florida. We have all our members of the Garden Club of Jacksonville to thank for that honor, our trustees, our members, our circles, Denise, our director, and her wonderful staff who help support these events. And I want to give a special recognition to LaVon O'Shields. LaVon, if you don't mind standing. LaVon applied for the award for the Garden Club of Jacksonville. She took a lot of time and effort to apply for several awards. So we're very thankful that you were that you did that for us. And I'm just very honored to be able to share that information with you today. We will be receiving the award officially on May 16th. So I hope you all can come to our annual meeting here at the Garden Club of Jacksonville on May 16th, and we will officially have the award. So, and come celebrate with us. It's a wonderful thing. Now I'd like to, at this time, invite Denise Reagan, our director, to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful morning. And we're going to learn from a very talented and very generous man about the art of floral design. Jackie Lacey has more than 35 years of experience in retail floral design and education. His portfolio includes an extensive background in the retail floral market and event design. Jackie now utilizes his experience to provide education and instructional design programs, market trends, bad segue, market showroom setup, private retail consulting, product development, as well as design and event planning. His current position as Director of Education and Industry Relations with Floriology, BloomNet, and NAPCO, and as Senior Design Team Specialist and Senior Editor of Floriology Magazine, keep him on top of market trends, current design trends, industry education, and retail marketing. Jackie has won numerous awards in floral design competitions in multi-state, national, and local floral associations. His work has been published in numerous magazines and has appeared on national television programs. He has done stage presentations and continuing education for multi-state associations and around the world. Jackie has served as leader in numerous industry associations, including his position as president of the Florida State Floral Association, which I believe he will speak to you about a little bit today. Please join me in welcoming the Garden Club of Jacksonville's 2023 Designer of Distinction, Jackie Lacey.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Tiffany. And thank you, everyone, for allowing me the opportunity to be here. I'm telling you, I'm a little bit nervous being in front of so much talent when it comes to the garden and horticulture. I told Angela, and I'm not going to use any scientific names because they'll know if I'm pronouncing it correct or not. I'm very happy to be here. I do want to take just a second to reiterate that we do have a floral school here in Jacksonville, Floriology. We do have some information up here if you would like, and I'm happy and looking forward to building a relationship with the Garden Club, not just here in Jacksonville, but hopefully Florida. I do happen to wear many hats, and one of my other hats is president of Florida State Florist Association, and our annual convention is here in Jacksonville later on this year, and I'm going to have Angela talk to you a little bit about that. I do want to give Angela a lot of credit because she keeps me rolling along right behind me, making sure I've taken care of everything that I need to, answering emails, reaching out for me. So we do have some cards up here. If you have any additional questions after the program, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here, we're local, and we want to do whatever we can to help further your education and build the relationship with both Floriology and Florida State. As they mentioned, I've been in the industry for, I say over 35 years. That way I don't have to admit that it's more like 42 years. That meant I started when I was like 5. I know everyone was thinking that. I am so pleased to do something that I enjoy every day. If you have to work, it should be something that you enjoy, or it's really going to be like work. And when I get to share, I enjoy that even more, because from up here, what people don't always know is that I can see light bulbs going off when I talk about something or mention something, and someone will be like, oh, that's what that's called, or that's what that technique is, or that's a great idea that I want to incorporate. And as a teacher, that's what we look for. We look for sharing inspiration, sharing my passion for flowers. I want to spill over to you, and hopefully you'll take something away from today that you can utilize at home, that you can then become the teacher and hopefully share that information with someone else. I thought we would start with something that was a little more towards the garden. And this basket was actually created out of driftwood, chicken wire, and a wreath frame. It was created for a program that we did from an international designer we had at Floriology, and I just could not part with it until today. Some lucky winner is going to be able to take it home today. So just remember that it is driftwood. We'll be happy to help you load. But what I often do when it comes to gardening, everyone doesn't have that green thumb. Some people will tell you that they have a brown thumb or theirs is any other color than green. I know some people can say they can look at a plant and kill it. And that's what those of us that are gardeners count on, because that means that we can shine when it comes to those people. So we want to make sure that we share that with others when we can. And what I'm doing is I don't like looking at the plastic, so I'm going to cover this pot. And this was a new plant that I picked up. This is called an auxiliary plant. And it's called that because it shares everything through all of its auxiliary stems. It looks a lot like parsley, but it just has that beautiful coloring, two different colors of green. It's like a little button leaf that's on there. So I thought it was a great addition to this basket. But again, I don't like looking at the plastic, so I like covering that so we don't look at that. And then we all know that this is a great plant to give someone because you can basically spit on it and it will continue to grow. And we want to share things like that with those that we might not be sure if they do have that green thumb or if they're a gardener. And again, just wrapping, this is bind wire that I'm using to cover this moss with because I don't want to see that plastic when I finish out what we're doing. And we're just going to nestle that down in there. And it just brings that great color, that contrast of the brown or that red with the green is a great contrast to add in there. And then just because we know if we're giving this to someone that they're going to have to transplant it, thought it was a great opportunity to add the right kind of dirt in there. And then they're going to need gardening tools. So we just slip those down in here where they won't have to say, I don't know what I'm doing or how to take care of it. And then because we want to add to this chartreuse green, I love that this particular plant comes in a couple of different colors because it allows us to use that to our advantage. And that beautiful chartreuse will add that color to the opposite side over here, which is very important. We want to make sure that whatever we create, we look at it from all angles, because when we give it to someone, we don't know how they're going to sit it. If they sit it here, and because they want to look at the front, especially when it comes to floral design, they want to see the front of that flower arrangement. And many times, if we create something that's one-sided and the back side isn't just as beautiful as the front side, someone sits it so they can enjoy it. Every person that comes in is looking at the back side of that design. So I want to make sure that anything I create is going to have color in every direction and be able to send this to someone to say, welcome to the neighborhood. I am so glad that you've joined our club, or whatever, an honor. This should go to this young lady here who filled out the information for you guys to receive that award. I think this would be a perfect gift for her to say thank you for thinking of our association and moving us forward. But I will leave that up to you guys. Everything that we're doing is going to be auctioned off except for just 2 items. But this will be one of them that can either be auctioned off, or like I said, I think it's a great gift to go to someone that won that great award for you. Got it? continuing with that theme, creating gifts, especially for those of us that are in the gardening and do happen to have a green thumb. I have about 25 different types of orchids on my lanai, and I pulled up every bit of grass in my back lawn so that I could plant something that I can take cuttings to the school, to do videos, to share that education. But when I think of giving something to someone, because of being in the industry, I love incorporating plants. And especially when I can do a contrast. But I want to make sure that when you are thinking about doing something for someone, when it comes to a plant, be sure that you are passing on plants that have a typical style of care, something that requires the same amount of sun, that requires the same amount of water. Because what I find often when we're in the retail situation, they do not think about that. They put things together that should not be together, and people overwater, underwater, not water, whatever the case may be. So we want to make sure as garden club enthusiasts that we're doing the right thing when we pass that on. So these are very different plants. One is succulent, one is not, but they do have similar types of care. So they would be fine to go in a basket. And I love using those contrasts with the beautiful little blue flower that's on there and that chartreuse green. But I am from the South, and it is not done until it is overdone. So we want to look for other things that we could add to that. And I've got just some beautiful little dried lotus pods that we're going to put in here to bring a little that brown color. And then this is called rustic wire. It's a yarn covered wire that I love to manipulate. I love to just do something that's a little, what we call in the industry, wabi-sabi, not perfectly perfect. This is something that is going to add a little bit of texture, a little bit of color, a little bit more of a natural look to it, and something that is unkept and not necessarily just perfect. I like that little bit of wildness because in today's market, we're dealing with 5 different generations. We have traditionalists, we have the baby boomers, we have the Generation X, who created 2 levels of millennials. We have older millennials and younger millennials, and we have to sell and communicate to them differently. And then we have the new generation now called Generation Z or Alpha. I think we're running out of letters, so we're starting back over. What we're finding with today's generation, Alpha, is spending about $400 million more per year than their predecessors, the millennials. They embrace flowers because if you think about it, they were coming of that age group over the last 2 or 3 years, and we all know what we just went through. I don't like using that word anymore, what we had to deal with the last couple of years, because we want to get it out of our vocabulary. But during that time, plants and flowers exploded. When we couldn't be there, we sent gifts. We sent floral gifts, or we sent plants, which was great for the industry. But what we find now is everyone is sad because we can't keep up with those numbers. Now that we're going back to what we want to call the new reality or the next reality, we want to look at how do we keep that attention on plants and flowers. What we found in the industry, when people purchased plants during the last couple of years, they didn't just buy one plant. Most of them said they bought as many as 5. So they brought brothers and sisters. But it's that age group that started looking at plants and what they could do. And they're like, I'm not quite ready to commit to a pet, but if I can keep a plant alive, maybe then we can proceed in that growing up thing, because they did not want to grow up during what we were going through. Excuse me. So they bought at least 2 or 3 plants, and then they came back and they bought more. And what we're seeing now, they're starting to shop for new homes for those plants. So they want new pots and new things that they can add. And I'm just going to add into this This is a new Easter cactus because it blooms at Easter rather than at Christmas. And it's all over the market. It's all the rage. It comes in a couple of different colors. Very easy to care for, just like your Christmas cactus. Easy to propagate. I know that I don't have to tell you guys about how important that is with the propagation and making sure that we understand how to take care of it. And we want to share those new varieties when they come out, because people won't know how to care for them if we don't help create or show them how to care for that. And what I'm doing with this particular piece of foam over here is I want that contrast of height. If you ever send something out to someone, when they reach out, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't have the manners that they should, and they might not call right away and say, you know, hey, thank you so much for that gift. I love it. We have people that will call us all the time at the flower shop and say, have my flowers been delivered yet? Because no one's called to say thank you. We record that and we track it, so we know when it went out the shop, out of the shop, and when it was delivered, and who signed for it. And unfortunately, it's just the way that we have to do things in the market today. But we're just adding in a couple of different varieties in here. This is one of my favorite varieties of cremones. This one is called Charlotte Rossini, right? Charlotte Rossini, but I love that beautiful, it looks like it's been sprayed. It is not, it's natural. It has that natural green color on top. And then underneath it, you see that beautiful pink. So it's a great spider mum or chrysanthemum to just add both of those colors in. And we're just going to group them in here. And then I like adding in something that's a little natural and adds a little bit of movement within that design. I hope it looks okay from the front side. Since I'm designing it from the back side, I'm just going to go with, I've done it enough. If it doesn't look good, they'll tell me. And we're just making sure that we cover up all of our mechanics so that we don't see any of that foam that's in there. And then can take this to someone with a beautiful card. I would also include care on how to take care of the plants. Or if it's a retail, what we suggest is you use a QR code, which will take them right to your website that gives all the information on how to care for that basket. If you have been in the industry or been, a gardener for some time, you know that for whatever reason, people just discovered succulents a few years ago, and they cannot let it go. When we do events, it is amazing how many times a bride or a wedding couple will come in and they're like, we want to do something different. We're going to do succulents. Or they want to do mason jars. Mason jars and succulents have been plucked, planted, painted, covered in burlap and painted. And now we're painting the succulents because we've done just about everything that can possibly be done to them. But the most popular succulents that we're seeing in today's market are those that have a little bit of color. So embracing that color, and this is just a trough. I love using low flat bowls like this because it will fit in anyone's home. If it's going to go on a dining table, you want to make sure that anything on a table, if you put your elbow on the edge of the table, it should be below the wrist or above the head. That does not impede conversation. Well, my grandmother told me that Emily Post, and hopefully many of you know who Emily Post is. She tells us all how we're supposed to behave. We don't ever do that, but we listen. And she says you're not supposed to have conversation across a 6 or 8 foot table. So we've gone to this kind of table so we can talk to everyone we want to. And no one's going to tell us not to. But something nice and low like this is great. But if you want to appeal to today's generation, adding in something like this is a product called Midolino. And just adding in a little bit of texture, a little bit of depth, a little bit of color is a great way to take it to that next level. This particular product is available all over the market. It comes in many different colors. This just adds that little bit of turquoise blue, which is super popular right now. You can add in a little bit, and what I just put in there is a cost about 3 cents. So you're not adding much in cost in there, but you're adding a ton in color. And if you want to do something that's a little bit more traditional rather than upscale, and remember, we're trying to appeal to every type of market, because it's super flexible, you can also make this look much larger by just adding it in various loops in different directions to create that interest in the design from another dimension. And I'm not going to put them all in there, but you can see now when someone looks at it, this was this big because it's incorporating the height from this product as well. Will you finish that off when it's over there? But that's just a few succulents, a little bit of rock in that nice wooden trough. This is called Midolino. Those are actually planted in the little grow pots, and it's just covered with stones. Because you want to give it a little bit of weight when you send something out, and because the wood is porous, you want to make sure that you've got the water, the moisture contained. Otherwise, the wood's going to absorb that moisture, and it can ruin your table. We don't send anything out that doesn't have some type of protection. I would also suggest that you keep it in a little liner in there, but we all know that succulents basically, don't need much. That's why today's generation loves them. They mastered the succulents, bought other more challenging plants, and then now they have moved on to the pets. So I'm concerned about the pet population with many of today's generation, because now that they can keep a pet alive, they might have children. And then what are we going to do? And we as grandparents then know that we have to take over at that point. But just always make sure any kind of plant that you're going to send out is in some sort of liner or some sort of protection so that that moisture will not seep into the container. Many containers in the industry will tell you that right away, that they have been sealed on the inside, because ceramic is hugely popular right now with plant products. And if it doesn't get sealed, it will also absorb the moisture, and it's going to seep onto the table and cause a situation as well. This is a little trough, and this is actually inside. Whomever gets this can take it apart, and that's what I do when I go anywhere and they're auctioning anything off. I love to get in there, see how someone put it together. What can I learn? I'll share a little quick story with you. When I was first starting in the industry, I was down at Disney, and they have those big, elaborate, beautiful designs in all the hotels. So I looked around and I didn't see one, and I climbed up on the booth, and I'm reaching around in there trying to find out how it's put together, and I felt someone tugging on my shorts behind, and I turned around, and it was a security guard. And he said, "I don't know what you're doing, but get down from there." So I did. I didn't want to get in trouble. I went to the other hotel because I knew they had a design there too. Back up. I didn't see anyone. I'm looking, felt someone tugging, turned around. It was the same security guard. I said, "Don't you have to stay in that one hotel?" And I told them, I said, "I'm sorry, I'm a florist. I just really wanted to see how this was put together. I'm not trying to disturb anything or cause a scene." He said, "If you will get down, I will take you downstairs to the floral department." So I got a private tour of the floral department just to keep me from climbing on the furniture. So you never know what benefits are going to come from our curiosity. But this is in a low flat tray on the inside. The container is sealed, but I wanted to make sure we always go to the extra mile. This does have foam in there because floral foam is a great way to start when you're first starting in design. And then we had someone bring us a whole bag of this root. We believe that it's ginger root or something. It looks like it was created by something from outer space, but I love the texture and having that root in there. And then with the floral product, all just compacted to hold it in place. So that way the floral product has a great water source as well as that texture from the root in there. But again, remembering that it's not done until it's overdone, I like to give something some height and to add natural product because I want it to A, look as large as it possibly can, but then I also find that that's just more interesting than just sending something that anybody else could possibly do. So I'm just looping this around and I'm going to push it right down into the foam to hold it in place, just adding that little bit of depth and texture to this design. And that's the great thing about using foam is that it will help you to create something that's a little different because again, someone gets this, they're going to see it and say that it was much larger, that was so tall, it had some beautiful branches. This has that beautiful new rose. This one in particular one is called blueberry. We're seeing a lot of lavender or purple flowers come onto the market because each of the rose gardens are trying to find a true blue rose. They say that the first company that can produce a true blue rose stands to make at least 100 million the first year. So they have come out with about 15 new varieties of the lavender rose, trying to create a true blue rose that's not sprayed, but naturally grown. But that beautiful blueberry has that color that is very close to the color of the year, which we're going to talk a little bit about, which is that Viva Magenta. I love tulips, and I especially love tulips being in the South because we get them much earlier than anyone else does in this particular area. But I do laugh because our humidity will make the tulip bloom look like a magnolia bloom in no time. Just opens flat and you can see the entire center. But I'm okay with that because I like floral product to be at a different stage. I don't like those little roses that look like what I call a bullet. I want a rose that's beautiful and open and I can see that all of the colors and the texture, because to me, this looks more like a garden rose, something that you're going to see. If you leave it on the vine or the shrub outside, you're going to see that beautiful shape. Same thing with the tulips. And I love for things not to be too specifically done. But we also want to look at what are our elements and principles, because the elements and principles of design are why we do what we do and what makes it work. So this is great having it compact. This would be what we would call clouding. We're clouding the designs because it almost looks like those rolling clouds. If you can see, everything's at a little bit of a different height. It's not absolutely just perfect. But to finish this off and to take it to the next level, these are Strelitzia leaves, bird of paradise foliage, which we have an opportunity to grow here. And just adding that in, I'm going to do what's called terracing. So you just find where, and all I'm doing is making a little bend in that Strelitzia leaf so that we can then add it into the design and create that platform that goes straight across and gives it not just the height, but also an updated look. It's not what you're going to find just everywhere else. So adding that in allows us to take it to that next level and show what we can do as a floral artist and understanding how to manipulate the elements and principles of design. So now this is this big. Rather than being flat, there's no greater compliment to me than to have someone go up and start looking around at how something was put together, but I might be tugging on their shorts from behind too. All right. Going here.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go here. I knew I couldn't come to the garden club without doing something that's in a garden compote and talking a little bit about mechanics too. We do use foam in the industry, but most of the foam in the industry today is biodegradable and will break down within about 30 days. So sustainability is incredibly important to us. In fact, it's one of our focus for this year. I would love to talk to you guys about how to be more sustainable gardeners. And one of the number one things when we sent a survey out to all of the purchasers that we could reach, I think it went out to about 25,000, something like that, that made purchases of flowers during the year. The number one thing that the survey came back with on sustainability is that they will pay up to 10% more for products from a sustainable florist than they will from someone that does not practice sustainability. The other number one reason that they believe in sustainability is that they believe we should all compost. So those of you that are composting, give yourself a high five, a pat on the back. You're helping to set the next trend for how we move forward and decrease our footprint. So don't worry so much about the foam. I know a lot of people are like, oh, that nasty foam. It used to be made with formaldehyde and all these other products that were actually trying to preserve the floral product. Now, and I've actually had the pleasure of being in the company that makes the foam. It looks like they're making green mashed potatoes. And I know that doesn't sound very appealing, but it looks like a big vat. And what they're doing is whipping in the air into the foam, and the foam has little cells that hold the moisture in. So that's what feeds the moisture to the plant or to the floral product when it's cut. You want to recut it before you put it in the foam. Very, very important if you're using foam product that you purchase from somewhere, either the wholesaler or it is available in mass marketing as well, make sure that you don't push it down into water. You want to sit it on a bucket of water in the sink, the tub, whatever, and let it soak or absorb the moisture naturally, because it's drawing the moisture into all of those pockets. What happens when you push the foam into the water, it's going to create a dry pocket. And if the stem of your flower hits that dry pocket, then it is not going to hold up as well as the others. So set it on top of the foam, let it just, on top of the water, let it just absorb that naturally. If you want to be more sustainable, we all know this in the industry as chicken wire, but I have been told that's not very PC. The chickens don't appreciate it. I don't know who told them that, but they like to now call it designer mesh or poultry fencing. Isn't that great? Poultry fencing. And most people look at me like, what is that? Who makes fences for chickens? Well, they've been making it for 100 years. It's been in the industry for a very long time. But it can be reused and recycled, and a couple of companies today are actually coating it with a rubberized plastic, which makes it less likely to rust so that you can use it more and more often. So you could use this design without the foam and just do the poultry fencing if you would like. But we wanted, since we're not the ones that are going to move this, because some lucky person will also be taking this home, we're going to embed that around the foam, because as you begin to layer in your floral products, it's going to hold them in place. It will keep the foam from breaking apart. A lot of people, when they first start designing, will put something in, oh, I'm not really sure. That's not exactly where I want to put that. Maybe I would rather it be here. well, you know what? I like the way that one's curved. And then before you know it, that foam is destroyed. It's just a big pile of mush that's on there. So when you're using foam, one of the things that you do want to do is make sure that you look at how you want to use it. And I like to start with one product and get that everywhere that I want it to be seen, because it's not just about making sure the products are or the colors work well together, but make sure that you have them equally distributed within the design. That's what color is all about. And again, I don't like doing things that look too overdone or too fixed. So I want it to have a little bit of natural appeal. And we love using the foliage from everything because that's a little bit more natural. So I know that we're putting this iris in here just to have that spikiness, that bit of foliage that sticks out as it goes all the way around. And then I love the beautiful iris because that color just cannot be found in anything else. And then when we start putting it together with those products and distribute it, you can see how well it works with the orange and the yellow. Those are super great colors to use together because they complement each other. You have that contrast of the yellow and the purple that play off. And remember, you have to have yellow to create the orange too. So it incorporates really well when we start putting together these products. And just want to continue. And I suggest you do what I just did. Whenever you're designing, occasionally turn the design so that you're looking at the opposite side and what do I need to do over here. Again, it's not done until it's overdone, but we want to make sure that we understand what we're using, how we're using it, and that everyone is going to get to enjoy that as we continue to add it in. And I love the way that the foliage just goes in every direction. We're seeing that chartreuse green from the tulip foliage mixed with the iris foliage, which is that dark emerald green. Emerald green is a trending color for this season as well. And you can see that I'm saving the lilies for last because they're the most fragile. When you start to add in a lily and then you're working around it, you can easily break off the petals. So I'm going to add those in last. And I know this doesn't sound politically correct, but I love grass. And we have to be careful with that these days because everybody else does too, but in a different way. But I love using lily grass and fountain grass. When I'm doing procurement, Angela will say, because I put fountain grass on there every time, and he's like, they're not going to have it. You're not going to get it, but I'll ask for it. And I get disappointed almost every time lately. So I've now planted it out by my pool, so I will have it when I want it. So it's important. But I like adding this grass in clumps because then we get the movement of the grass. And it just helps to make it all look a little bit more natural, not quite so overdone, because it's like something that you would see out in your garden. And in floral design, we call that vegetative or vegetative design. But really, this is a little too fixed to be vegetative. Vegetative should look like you have pretty much put your shovel into the dirt, scooped it up, and it looks more like a natural plant. If we did something like this, then we could call that more vegetative because you can't fix it too much. And I'm fixing this a little bit too much just because I want to distribute that all over. This would make a great entryway design or something for an event. Often what I will do is to work with my clients on their event order and suggest that we do something like this right in the center of the room so that everyone has to walk around it. That way everyone will see it, number one, because it's amazing how many times you can create something for an event And I've had the couple or the event planner come back and say, I never saw that door wreath. Well, the last thing I do before I leave is take pictures of everything I do, because someone can move it when I leave, or people will walk by it and not even notice it. And I want to make sure I've recorded the way I left it, and I can pull those out and I can show them. And this, with the aspidistra, all I'm going to do to make it easy is I love creating texture like we just talked about, looping it right through and piercing it, and then right into the foam. It's quick and easy. It adds in texture in different ways. I'm not going to put it all in the same way. This is a way to cover up my mechanics. So now we start seeing the chartreuse green of the tulips playing off of the emerald green of not just the iris, but also the aspidistra foliage too. So we continue to fill that out and around. Don't hesitate to ask questions. If you have questions about something that I'm doing. Yes. Absolutely. But because tulips are about 60–70% water, you have to be really careful with that. Make sure that you let them come to room temperature before you start reflexing anything. Calla lilies is another. Reflexing the tulips, if you want them to curve in a different direction, you can reflex the stem and manipulate it so that it will bend the opposite direction. Another trick too is if you want that tulip to turn a different direction, put it in your cooler or put it somewhere by a light and face it the opposite direction, and in the morning you will see it turn. Because they're thermotropic, phototropic, they're going to grow towards the light. And remember, with tulips, they can grow up to 4 inches a day, which is enormous. So that's one of the reasons I do them like this. If you use tulips as a line flower, make sure that that's going to be judged within the next 30 minutes or so. Because that line might be in there like this, or this, or this, depending on where it is sitting in the room and how the light is. And then there's also a lot of products in the industry, like the Bells of Ireland, the molecule. We're going to look at that in just a moment. That is phototropic and will go towards the heat. When products like that are packaged to be sent out, they're going to be laid flat in the bottom of a box so that as they do change or manipulate, they're going to straighten out or bend in the direction that you want them to bend. So we're just about finished here with adding in our aspidistra. Aspidistra is on every order I send to the wholesaler. They know it's going to be there. The green I do not use as much as I do the variegated, just because I love that variegated has that yellow or white stripe that's on the interior of it. So you're going to get multiple colors in that, which is a great way to add that color into something that you're doing. So we have about 2 bunches. It does hold up really well. What I do is cut it off of the stem with as much stem on it as possible too. Now that's going to create a sort of downward. So you have to really take your knife to create a pierce that's going to, especially if you're using it in foam, but the ginger will hold up super well in just a water source. Doesn't do as well in a foam as it does in water. And the reason is with foam, because of the particles that will get absorbed into the tissue and start to naturally block. What you can do, because ginger will last up to about 3 weeks if you recut it every other day. And then that's going to take the tap water here. Well, the tap water everywhere. It's not just in Florida, it's everywhere. You want to be really cautious with it because of all the chemicals that are in there. Same thing for the flowers. You want to be sure that you're careful with the water. I always draw mine and then let it sit for 2 or 3 days before I use it, so that all those great chemicals that we need are taken out of there. But I know for a fact that there's a lot in there that we don't need, like arsenic and lead and all of those great things. Not trying to tell anyone not to drink the water, but be careful. That's one of the reasons that bottled water has become so popular. And then again, I love the gardeny appeal to this. This would be great for any kind of party that you might be having outside. But we all know that I love to add in height. And I love this Nandina especially, because I want to create interest that people will want to ask me, where did that come from? What is that? So we just elevated this to a whole nother level by adding that Nandina in there. And I have another piece that I actually want to save, but I would take it and keep it very low down in here. You don't want to add a lot of this busyness like this one. In fact, I'll show you. If we started to put this into the center here, just to cover up our mechanics, look at how now this isn't as impressive because we've taken away that negative space. Using negative space is something we manipulate. We add negative space into a design by purposely not putting something in here. Nature adds negative space in between the plant, the leaves, the way the leaves are layered on a piece of a branch or something like that. But we add it as a visual tool to make something look larger. But to cover that up down there, I would suggest that you break it all off, because you also don't want people looking into the center of your design and seeing anything not covered. And then that helps cover that up, and it gives me a naked branch that I can use in another design later on. So that is our event piece. I think we're going here next, right, Angela? No, we're going to go here. I wanted to talk a little bit about the color of the year. And the color of the year is Viva Magenta. And there is a color group that sets that for the entire industry called Pantone. The Pantone color group sets the color of the year for the coming year. They usually announce it in about late November, early December. Now, who gives them the authority to say this is what the color is going to be? They have positioned themselves over the last 25 years to 15 years ago starting to do that. But what we've noticed in the last couple of years, people pulling away from that. And a lot of it has to do with today's generation, because all of us that have children, grandchildren in that age group know that the first thing I don't want that because that's what you did. They don't want hand-me-downs. They don't want antique furniture. They don't want what their parents had, but they're more than willing to pay someone else to beat the crap out of a chest and repaint it. Mm-hmm. Rather than just getting something that's a family heirloom and taking it with them. They want to do that themselves. That's kind of where Pantone has gotten now. It's like, don't tell me what color is going to be popular next year. What we have seen, though, because we are in the decor industry when it comes to flowers and plants, we help decorate the interior of homes, businesses, things like that. The paint companies are pretty spot on. If you look at what colors they're selecting for colors of the year, especially this year, we had guacamole, we had calming forest. These were all tones of green in that medium green And anyone that might be, I'm happy to say that I am 62 years old and I love getting older because I am not looking forward to the alternative. So I embrace every day that I get, but some of you may remember celery green. Well, that's all it is with a new name. And can you believe it? Mauve has come back around. And they're actually using that same word mauve because it's new. Hello, we can go to my grandma's house and I can show you mauve from the 70s and 80s. Celery green, forest, copper tone. Everyone remembers copper tone and those harvest golds and things like that. We're seeing a lot of those colors come back now because today's generation did not hear those terms. They don't know what those colors are. With the Viva Magenta being color of the year, what we're seeing is that people don't understand it. It says Viva Magenta and it looks burgundy. Magenta is more purple. Viva Magenta is more burgundy, which means it has an underlying stronger red color. We need red and blue to create purple. So we're seeing everyone use a mix of lavenders and purples in today's color of the year. So Viva Magenta has really opened up, let's use that accent color, and lavender and yellow have been accent colors for years because those are two colors that work well with almost any color group as you start to layer it in. So we're seeing the Viva Magenta, which is closer to this color here in that cremone, but by incorporating a lighter lavender and a deeper, darker lavender, it works. Adding in the chartreuse makes that lavender pop. And that's why we layered in the chartreuse. Angelin actually did these designs. We had a meeting in our boardroom. You just love it when the company president comes in to visit. Not just the company president, but we had 8 vice presidents and the top brass all came down from our headquarters in Long Island. So we used this in the boardroom and I said, let's take that and talk about the color of the year as well. So someone can take these all home. You will see that on the Bells of Ireland, we have removed the top portion to stunt the growth. Bells of Ireland also will continue to grow when it's put in water. Tulips, lilies, all of those products like that will continue to grow when we put them in a water source. We do these separate designs for an opportunity for someone to have a takeaway. If you do this for a party, then at least 3 people are going to get to take something home rather than doing one piece that one person gets to take home. If you're using this on your dining room, then after the party, you could easily put one in the kitchen, one in the hallway where you can see flowers, because it is a scientific proof that flowers bring smiles. When we're delivering flowers, it is incredible how many times someone will open the door to receive their flowers and their first words out of their mouth are, "Is that for me?" "Well, I'm at your house." "I hope they are." Or, "I can't believe someone sent me flowers." "You should be a florist. No one ever sends us flowers." They're like, "You get to see that all the time. I'm sure you don't want it." We love flowers, but we're like the cobbler. We take them home and do everything we tell everyone not to do. We don't water it. We put it on top of a speaker or electronic piece. We put it in the sunshine. We ignore it, just like the cobbler does for the shoes. But when you're starting to create something in multiple pieces like this, you can see the diversity and the opportunities you have for being able to move it around, to use it in other ways, to use a smaller piece. It comes from one of today's trends are collections. I'm sure you've seen, especially either the pharmaceutical bottles, different heights, the brown bottles or clear that have the little rubber top. Super popular right now, using those with a single stem of floral product or a piece of foliage or something like that in there. It was amazing that collection caught on because, again, I know I keep harping on today's generation, but there's not a lot of today's generation other than back there. They're far enough away with that they can't hit me. or they can't get mad at me for talking about today's generation, but they thought that that would be less expensive. But then they decided in those little collections, let's put peonies and ranunculus and orchids, the most expensive flowers you can possibly buy. But I'm only doing one of them, but you're doing one of them on 100 tables, my dear. And all of those collections, when we start to add in 10, 15, 20 pieces together, multiply that by 100. So you've got 2,000 pieces of glass to get on tabletops. Give me one single centerpiece every day, because that's a lot easier to set in place than to having all of those small little glass locations. Yes. That is called a fiber stick. It's from a company called Accent Decor. And they come in a length of about 24, 26 inches, something like that, different widths. They had it in several different colors. I think they're down to only having one color now, but you will also see a lot of similar product that close to that in some of the big box stores. In the industry, we'll see a lot of the products that we use are company specific. We work with the major companies in the industry, Smithers Oasis, because they are all over the world. Accent Decor is a great container company. NAPCO is one of the companies that we work for. We actually work in the building, the NAPCO building, and we create various products like this. But we'll create it. We usually keep it in our line for 1, 2, maybe 3 seasons. And by that point, mass marketing has picked up on it. And then they start producing it by the hundreds of millions at a quarter of the cost. It's not just that we can no longer compete, it's that then we're looking for the next item. What can we introduce now? Because you want to set yourself apart, but then you also have to be realistic too. When the big box, and we love to hate Walmart just like we love to hate Martha Stewart sometimes. Bless her heart, she did bring light to flowers, but can we do another design than that roundy moundy wad? We lovingly call things the Martha Stewart wad. Wad of flowers, just put it here. And when it comes to florists, she kind of like set herself up, because in her first book, on the first page, it says, you do not need a professional florist. So that's pretty much what we said to her. We do not need Martha Stewart. But we see a lot of people that have that same desire to be crafty and to be different, and now they're jumping on here, YouTube, Instagram, all of that. And we have to be on it. When she tells me I have to learn TikTok dance, I need a few days to ponder that. Exactly how stupid am I willing to make myself look? But that's the way we connect with the various generations, because they all buy in those ways and learn in that way as well. They want you to be approachable. They want to be different. They don't want the same thing. They want that uniqueness, that experience. And so it's our jobs to help provide them with that, with what we can do. Looking at plants, and plants being such an important part of the industry, we all know that one of the trends in today's market is naked plants in a water source, so that we can see that beautiful root system. I love that part of it, but this can only be like this for a certain amount of time. We all know that, because we garden, we understand that at some point, all of the nutrition will be taken out of what little bit of soil is in there, and it's no longer going to be a healthy plant. So we would have to change this out often if this is the style that we're going to do. But this is what we know as a fad. A fad is anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half. It will go along, and then suddenly everyone decides, when this plant starts to turn yellow and won't stay any longer because it's not getting any nutrients, they don't like that, and so the fad will go away. When a fad becomes a trend, that's when it's going to last a year and a half to 3 to 5 years. That becomes a trend. And then some trends will become style. Style is going to last for up to 10 or 15 years. Unfortunately, that's kind of where the mason jar and the succulent are right now. They have become a style because it's being incorporated into everything. So looking at this to be trendy, and this is exactly how I purchased this, was just like this. It's easy, it's quick to pick up, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's such an incredible idea. I love that. I can take that to my mom for Mother's Day. Because mass marketing has picked up on this, they want to sell whatever they can sell. You know, grocery stores, forgive me for anyone that's in here, I do some training with mass marketing grocery stores because I would rather them do it right than for us not to provide training to them at all. But they discovered that what we as professional florists or retail florists don't want to do, they're more than willing to do because they look at not selling 50 or 100, they look at selling 1,000 or 10,000. That's the way their lots go. Well, in a retail flower shop, if I'm selling 10,000 something, I'm going to be at the beach, somebody else is going to be doing it. So we look at things like this for inspiration and what is going on in the industry. And like I said, I don't throw anything away until it's done. These are the stems of the carnations that we've used and everything that we've done because this creates something other than an empty container. Like I was mentioning, when you're doing a centerpiece and you put your elbow on the table, it should be below the wrist or above the head so it does not impede conversation. You can easily sit something. Do we have anything in the design? Well, I don't want to mess anything up, but you can easily set something right on top of here for a support that's going to get your design up and out of the way. So I use stems a lot to create that interest in there. Even the rose stems, if you want to use those because they're green, they're often brown, even better because of the plant connection. So it's very easy to get it up off of the table and you're able to converse down here. You've got all of your things along the table and it looks great. Of course, that could be a floral design as well that's up there. And this, with those two different colors of green, create interest. So it's easy to set that up there, thank you. Easy to set that up. That's why I don't throw anything away until it's done. In using the rose stems, I would cut those in smaller pieces like this and just layer in there. And again, you can fill that up. I did a wedding in Hong Kong and we used about 150,000 roses. It was a sit-down dinner for 600 people at the Ritz-Carlton in Hong Kong. And they had 9 weddings in the hotel that day. So I could only get into the setup room about 2 hours before it started with a sit-down dinner for 600. And, when you're in China, you don't do anything like you do anywhere else because everything is made there. It is less expensive for me to have custom linens made down the street and put on the tables. And we used 72-inch tables surrounded by serpentines. So each table was about, I believe they were about 150, 160 inches across. So they were tables of like 30. And that's what we had to set up in this room. But I hired all of the students from a floral school to help me with all of those roses. I was like, let's use those stems as filler in the 400 pieces of glass that we were using. That will give some color, it's something to do, it's recycling, yay. Great thought. So I showed them in there. And when you're in Asia, when you're American and you're in Asia and you're maybe, and I don't want to say stupid man, I don't consider myself stupid, but for whatever reason, when I'm there, I feel like if I talk with Asian accent, they're going to understand what I'm saying. Hello. or loud, or a lot of times with your hands. And I've discovered that their response almost to anything I say was, sure, no problem. We take care for you. So I went in, I showed them, we had all of these stems just piled up, and I said, I want you to cut the stems like this, and then drop them down into a container, and we have all these containers to fill. No problem, we take care for you. So I went away to do some more instruction, gave them a couple hours, like they should be finished for now, right? And so I went in there and I stepped in the room, and I'm sure all of the blood went from my face because there was maybe 3 containers done in 2 hours. And that's exactly what I did. I sucked the air out of the room. What I saw was they were taking each piece I did and laying it down and making sure that the next piece they cut was exactly the same. So you have to be specific. So I grabbed the stems and I was like, no, chop, 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 fast, fast, fast. And within half an hour, every container was filled once I was specific about what I was looking for. But we have to be careful. But using the stems for color is a great way to incorporate and bring that in, and then to take using plants to another level, because like we discovered, I don't like to just do anything the same. I loved this plant when I saw it, and especially when I saw the beautiful root system, because that adds so much color and so much. It's a way to make it a little bit more natural, so that my gardening side gets fed with my floral side. And these are just skewers like you would find at the supermarket. And just feeding that through. This is aluminum wire that's in there to add in a little bit of color. Angelin got that all set up for me. So we can add that root in there. It's a little bit more natural. It adds that color in there. And then to take it to the next level, these little tillandsia that you can buy on the market everywhere right now, because again, everyone feels like an air plant should just be able to survive on air, right? So these are incredibly popular, and about $12.99 per piece for tillandsias. So those of you that are great with tillandsia, you've got your next sideline. Little shell, it's just glued in there. They think will last forever because it really doesn't change color much when it dies. And they forget that water might need to be involved. A little bit of nutrient might need to be incorporated in there, but just another take on a way to incorporate plants into your event products. Another great thing that we will create with that wire are just leaves that can be naturally added into anything. I was going to add it in that, but I was afraid it wouldn't show up. Here, we'll do it when I get to this one. I want to talk about eucalyptus, because eucalyptus is right up there with the succulents and the mason jar. People discovered it a couple of years ago, and now everything has to have silver dollar eucalyptus. They went from selling 25 bunches at a wholesaler. Now they say they sell 25 cases on a daily basis, just getting it out. So all of the varieties of eucalyptus are super trendy right now. Looking at these, we've got bonsai, or this is called, and I knew I would do this, parvifolia. Yeah, parvifolia. There you go. What she said. Or bonsai. It has that little needle-shaped leaf to it. And then, of course, the silver dollar that has the little silver dollar shape on there. Baby blue or spiral eucalyptus, and then seeded eucalyptus. All of those are going to be about every kind of retail design that's out there. I love that you guys created these all foliage designs, because that is also a trend that we see in the market right now. for special events, all foliage. Again, unfortunately, it came to be because people thought it would be less expensive than having flowers, but in the retail market now, foliage is as expensive as floral product. That's why I even try to use my stems, because I paid for the stem just like I did the flower and everything else. I want to try to use everything I can to make it look more natural. But I love these little wrought iron baskets. This was a set that NAPCO had, and then incorporating it doesn't take a ton of flowers. And that's what I try to teach people. Making a statement with fewer stems of flowers increase your ability to share that passion. It increases the ability for people to understand. So using a different kind of product in a little different way, let that cremone stand for itself. You don't need a ton of it in there. You start mixing it all up like some of these larger ones. Sometimes you don't even see it because there's so much in there. But the mini green hydrangea, which is just young hydrangea that hasn't opened yet, is that chartreuse green, super popular. It's a smaller head, so we get it a little less cost. Adding the root in there for texture, and then just adding my stems from the carnations. I just bent those in and added those in for texture and bring in another color. Using everything you've got allows you to incorporate all of the cost into what you're creating, or it also helps in that sustainability. We're not throwing that away, we're incorporating it into what we do. So it helps to pass that along, and you would encourage whomever you're going to give this to that they compost, recycle, use everything that they can that's in that design, and let some of it, being up tall like this, lets me really appreciate that new color and variety. And then embedding something low, because carnations get a really bad rap. They'll call a retail florist, and I don't want any of that baby's breath or carnations or leather leaf in there. Now, because today's generation, we took all of that out of our design. Today's generation calls and they want baby's breath, carnations, and leather leaf because it's new to them. They're seeing something that's a little different. So we've just incorporated that and then added some of the lotus pods in the back. Again, I want it to be aesthetically pleasing from both sides, because I don't know where this will be set when it goes to someone's home or office. In that set, too, with getting something up off the table for an entryway, or just to, maybe on half of the tables. When I do events, I like to do 2 different sizes of designs, something low on the table with lots of candles. We all look younger and healthier in candlelight. I say bring back gas lamps. That'll make me look so much better. But I like doing something that's up high and something that's down low. When you do that, what it does when you walk into a room with floral design at eye level, it looks like there's twice as much in there because you immediately see that. Then when you create on the other tables something that's low down to the tabletop, then you create interest so people want to walk around and see what's different. Or if you incorporate a third one in there, that's going to create people socializing, because it's their natural inquisitive, why did that table get that big tall design? And I got the candles and floating petals. They start rationalizing. So they want to go to all those tables and see what's going on and see the difference. So it will help them start to socialize a little better. With this particular design, I wanted to talk about the trend that we're seeing in the market of tropical floral product added into your garden style, with the ivy and the amaranthus being more of a garden type of design, and then just incorporating that. This is called Midori. I love anthurium. They're beautiful. They last for a super long time. They're very interesting with the color. But to bring that in, and when Angelin was putting this together yesterday, I said, let's be sure and focus on that downward motion, that waterfall, because the great thing about understanding the elements and principles of design is line is the way your eye travels through the design. So if we look at this composition, when we first look at it, we're going to see the Midori because that's that shocking color. That's that first thing that grabs our eye, our focal area. But we travel down and right back into the arrangement because the line takes us and doesn't create a place where the eye stops. And that's a great use of line because you don't want your eye to stop somewhere in a design and not see the rest of it, or mistakenly look at, well, maybe it wasn't finished or they didn't go in that direction, whatever the case. You want your eye to always travel through. And then the other trend that we see here is that monochromatic color. Green is natural to all floral product. The stems, the foliage is usually green. So that doesn't get taken into consideration with the other floral product. But this is green alstroemeria, green amaranthus, green coffeeberry or hypericum berry. And then Angela, you want to come up here and share with them how you did that foliage? She manipulated a aspidistra leaf. Do we have one not used yet? No, I
think we bought any.
took all those. Yeah, just show them how you folded that up to incorporate. And this is just to be able to use what you've got and to create that texture.
So you remember how we used to pleat years and years ago? That is all I did is I took the leaf and pleated it and then took a stapler and stapled it in place.
And just layering those in, we'll set this off to the side and you can look at it. It creates so much interest that you want to look and see how things are put in there. Once it's been cut, we would circle it and the bottom completely submerged in water. That way you're feeding the foliage, all of the roots, because if you look on ivy, it's got roots all along, so it's going to drink everywhere. And that really helps hold it up. And once you get that, this has been, we soaked this like 2 days? It's been soaking for like 2 days in the water. It will hold up pretty well for your event that way. Otherwise, sometimes the foliage can get a little weak, but you want it to look that firm. And then with the lily grass rose, this is 9 pieces?
9 pieces.
9 pieces of lily grass woven into a rose. We do a full class on foliage manipulation. So one of the things that on the brochures that we have up here, we can do a private class for as long as we've got at least 10 people. We can set up a class on a specific topic. We could do a series of classes. We are happy to connect with you in any way that we can provide that to the garden club, but at least 10 people, and we can do something like the foliage. You could bring your foliage that you've got here, and we could show you different things that you could do for that, or I've done table settings, holiday decor, you name it, we can do just about any. After 40 years in the business, I've got a plethora of information to share. The last series in that, because again, we know that, like we talked about, it's not done till it's overdone. Because when you put this on a table, you don't want people looking into the mechanics of what you've got going on up here. You want to either paint the bowl that you're going to put up there or layer it. And what we've done is layer it with moss. So we're looking at the moss. And then just a little something for our coffee table. or that, bedside table. But we did cluster all of the floral product, which is a trend that we're still seeing in the market. It's a great way to take traditional design into today's desire. And today's consumer loves seeing it grouped together because it makes the color stronger and makes the texture stronger. So it's a great way to pull all of that together just by grouping it when you put it in there. But you'll notice that we've got a couple of groups on either side. You just don't want to be able to see both groups at one time. If you do multiple placements of grouping, the key is don't be able to see, like don't put ranunculus here and right here where you can see them. You would want ranunculus to be on the front side and maybe the back side. That way it still appears as grouped. But when you start mixing groups together, then it's mixed, it's not grouped, and it starts to get confusing. So be cautious with the way you group. These containers all came from NAPCO, which is here locally. Again, reach out to us. We've got cards up here. You can connect with us on for floreologyinstitute.com, and we will be happy to direct you right to the catalog and where you might be able to purchase those locally. That's the great thing about us being local, is that a lot of these I've pulled that were discontinued, and that's why we can leave them for you to auction off. We can do that just about any time you want us to come by and do something. We can always have things that can be auctioned off. Excuse me. This container is actually from the company Accent Decor that I talked about just a moment ago. They make great event pieces that are really large like this. This is just a brass compote that's down here. I love the color of the anthurium because again, I love anthurium, but this obaki style with the pinks and reds and various shades of green really pick up and will go with almost anything. So it's a great plant to have in a container that's just sitting. But I also don't like having to incorporate the cost of a container if I want to do something in the center of an event. So we thought we would use this, and I just created one side. I am not going to put together the other side right now. I wanted to show you it's just done in a ring right there. And this is all just clustered really tight, which is really popular, but with some of those extensions of the stock that's sticking out. Look for next year to be a lot of orange colors, because one of the hot colors for next year is going to be tangerine cream. So you're going to see a lot of orange, where today we're using a lot of red and a lot of green or yellow, purple as accent. Next year it's going to be more orange. So adding that bit of orange in there will take this into our color palettes for next year, but to get some height and to reuse something that you've got, then you can always add in that cat palm or parlor palm, anything like that. I will tell you that I tried to send Angelin over the edge.
I just want to thank the nice lady who allowed me to take some of her palm yesterday.
This is the Robellini.
Flat braided.
I wanted these pieces braided, but I wanted this type of palm because that looks really sharp in a container like that. We have the benefit of here being in Florida is that a lot of this will be growing naturally around us. So take advantage of it.
15 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, she was asking how long did it take. It's about 15 minutes per piece. And I did an event. With 50 tables, and we braided every palm. Those designers will no longer work with me.
I did.
They've joined forces with the other group of designers that I asked to clip the stems,
Just palm.
because they said that should be something we make prisoners do. But it's just braided on each side. And then you can either cut these off that leave out the back, or one of the other things you can do is push them back up through if you have the time to push them back in, just so that you've got a nice clean palm that goes in there. Because you can see it makes such a statement when it's braided like that. But a great way to incorporate today's trends in a container that you might have, but to take it to that next edge, we can all see that this beautiful amaranthus in here, but I thought it would be great to add in a couple of other colors, because when you start layering in the darker tones, you can see how it starts to come alive when we're adding in the contrast of the green and the red together. Do we have that? Do we have the bolt for this?
It's
And
yarn.
Just layering it in. And this is actually yarn that we bought at the, yeah, I'm going to bring the bolt out here. We brought it just to prove this is yarn that you can get at the hobby store that looks super similar. And this we can use time and time again. So you can get this preserved as well, but it's super expensive. And like I said, my budget starts at 0 and I have to work down. So I look for things that I can use time and time again. The other great thing about being in the industry that we're in is appreciating what nature provides for us. And there are times still today that I can open the cooler at Mother's Day, which is one of the busiest times ever, and want to cry because I get the privilege of working with some of the most incredible product and some of the most talented people in the industry that give me inspiration. I learn from my students as much as I hope they learn from me. But just seeing this, when she brought it to the store, I was like, I don't care what we do, I have to incorporate that. But I thought I would start with the popularity of tablescapes right now and setting something up. So you can keep something supernatural and doesn't have to be over the top. And work what looks like plants in there, and then use what props you might have to bring in that next level. And incorporating the iron with the wood is a great way to take this to that next level. But if our budget allows, and if you will allow me to be over by about 5 or 10 minutes, I will finish this out. Because this piece here is done in our poultry fencing. Created just a little pillow out of folding it up. And we thought we would create another one here on this end to mimic that, just to show you that I was being completely honest. We did that in the poultry fencing. And you start, and you can do this at any event that you might have. You're going to start with whatever foliage that you're using. Doesn't have to have super long stems. You want them to be about 5 or 6 inches. And you just start covering up your mechanics. And the mechanics are the way something is put together. And the more we stick in here, the more it covers it up, as well as the more grid, so to speak, that you're creating for your floral product to stay in as well. I would, if I were doing this for an event, then I would put any of the questionable floral product in a water tube. Like the hydrangea is what we would call questionable because it has to have a water source. I would probably also tube the Gerber daisy, maybe the lily, but the roses will hold up for a good 5-6 hours, maybe even longer, especially if you use an anti-transparent. If you are doing floral design, make sure you get yourself something called an anti-transparent, and it's just a spray, because things like hydrangea drink from the bloom as well as the stem. So spritzing them down with the anti-transparent seals the moisture in, but still, this particular one is called finishing touch, will still let the plant breathe. It doesn't completely seal it off. There is another variety out there that is more like almost like a shellac, that actually seals the moisture in, but your plant will not continue to breathe. You can spritz it with water, and that's great, but you're going to need to spritz it a lot. No, the eucalyptus will hold up really well, because most garlands are made out of things like that, and you're not going to have a water source anyway. You know,
That is my personal piece of driftwood.
so that would cost a
currently-
lot. But I get asked that all the time, wherever I travel, and it's hard for me to tell you exactly because I don't know what your overhead is. I don't know what your mortgage is. I don't know how much you mark things up. People do a different costing for everything that they do. So I would have to have that. But my answer to that question is as much as I could possibly sell it for. To be fair, what I would do is I'm going to take the cost of everything that I'm doing, and I'm going to multiply it by whatever my standard markup is, whether that be, I keep moving it and I keep thinking I'm making it fall. Generally here in this area, you're going to see probably a 2.5 to 4% increase, or 4 times, depending on where you are in town and what your costs are, how much you charge for labor. There's a lot of things that have to kind of come into play for what things do cost. We don't just randomly mark it up. But my suggestion to everyone that I work with is be fair about it. As if that's what you have to mark things up, I understand that. That's what our costs are. That's what we have to do. So as long as you're being fair about it and can justify what those costs are, we're going to buy it, because I've looked at a lot of the footwear that people have on in the room and some of the brands that they might be wearing. They're not taking cost into consideration. They're buying that because they like it. How much is this worth if this is something you want? So that's what you have to look at. You know, when we start asking questions that can't truly be answered mathematically, then we have to look at why. Are we willing to pay for that? And when I talk to people in the industry that have a shop or just starting, because we see a lot of people today that just, you know, they sell in their home, and I embrace that. We used to not like that in the industry, but we have to embrace it in today's market, because it's cheaper than having a retail space, because you've got so many other costs that are involved in that retail space that you have to be fair. But I also want to make sure that I'm not just, you know, it's like, I want a new car. Am I going to the Ford dealership or am I looking for a Mercedes? I know what my budget is. I want to work with people on what their budget is. Can everyone afford this? No. Is there something I can do that everyone could afford? I could rent them the driftwood. They could have their own plants. I could rent them the props. They can afford it. I could take just chrysanthemums and do a trail along the driftwood. I could use just foliage. I could put moss and just flower petals. If I use my creativity, I can make this affordable for everyone. And I think that's what we have to do when we're in retail. I do love what I do, and it is challenging to be able to do that for everyone because sometimes people are unrealistic. I had a bride that came in, she brought in Preston Bailey's magazine with a beautiful floral design that was on the bottom of the page that she brought in. It said right there in plain English that each design was $1,600. I don't know if you noticed or not, but I like fancy shoes. It's the one thing that I can do and get away with, and people don't get too upset with me. So I like fancy shoes. I also like fancy shirts. If you saw my advertisement that we did, I had someone that mentioned it. I like fancy shirts too. So, you know, I don't have children. I have shoes. I have a closet I built for my shoes. In each pair of shoes, I have a photo and it says sitting only for stage wear. Very comfortable. Never put these on your feet again. I know that you know what I'm talking about. We have those shoes that we look great in when we're standing still, but we don't dare move or we're going to wince when we do. So she said, you know, she showed me the pages of paper. I saw that they were $1,600 each. I automatically was buying shoes in my head. And then I asked her, I said, okay, how many designs do we do? And she said, I'm going to need probably 100. I just bought a new closet too, in my head. And what's our budget? She said, I was hoping you could do something for $75. Wah, 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 wah.
Okay.
All my shoes went back and I had to cancel the closet. People don't have that reality because they don't work with it. You as gardeners know where to buy the best plants, but you also are buying plants that you know are healthy, that are raised properly, that are going to continue to grow. That means that you don't buy them everywhere. You buy them at certain places, but you might pay a little more because you know that plant is going to survive, that it was raised the way it should have been. It's the same thing for floral product too. We want to be fair with what we're doing. We want to make sure that we are charging something for our artistry because you have to pay to continue to get your education. That cost should be passed on to customers that you work with. If you are doing it for joy, there's still a certain amount of cost that's involved. And it's amazing how people will see what you're producing in your garden and feel free to ask you to provide them with the floral product, the benefit of what you're doing. But how many times do they come and help you? How many times do they weed for you? I'm not afraid to ask. Come and help me, and I'll be able to help you. With us being here from Floriology, like I said, I would love to come back again. I would love to be able to work with you as much as possible. I want to take just a second for Angela to just mention our Florida State Floral Convention, which will be here in July. And we are looking for volunteers. We actually created a special rate for you. You could attend that day. I think it was $59.99, right? Well, it is today.
It is today. He's the boss.
You can reach out, and being the president of the association, I can set the price, I guess. But you can attend that day for $59.99 if you will give us at least an hour in the back, taking some of the floral products from demos like this and rearranging it into the containers that we provide. And we would like to be able to fulfill that one order for 200 designs. That means everyone in the facility will get a floral arrangement. So we want to repurpose everything that we've got It's here in Jacksonville. It's actually at the Hyatt at Riverfront down front. There's some brochures up here from Florida State. But if you would be willing to work that day with us, you have to go through Angelin to get registered. Her cards are up here. You can reach out to her. She'll tell you how to do that. But share a little bit more information.
So our convention will be July 26th through the 30th. And like you said, it's here at the Hyatt, right down Riverfront. We stand back a little bit. We will be attempting to, instead of throwing away a lot of the flowers that we have left over, we want to be able to pass them along to help make someone smile. So several of you sent me some contacts, some leads, and I've been in contact with people. And there is a facility that if they're at full capacity with women and children, they will have 225 residents. And we would like to see everybody there be able to get something because, you know, women and children are on my heart all the time. And I just think that if we can go and bless them, that would be a great opportunity for us. And I think for you as well.
And we have 5 programs that are going on that weekend. If you wanted to attend between Saturday and Sunday, there are 5 stage programs. Hitomi Gilliam, who is a well-known designer in the industry, is doing a program. We have been holding an international design competition. We had 23 countries that did over 2,500 votes for the top 3 people to be brought. One from Indonesia, one is coming from Poland, the other one happens to be from Florida. Yay, Florida. But the top 3 will finish their competition on stage in front of everyone with their techniques. We have Paul Miller from Sunshine Bouquet. We have Derek Woodruff from Syndicate Sales that's doing a terrarium class. So we have opportunities for classes as well as for all of the programs that will be presented as well. So we hope that we'll see some of you there. We hope that we will reach out to Floriology and allow us to share with you again. I appreciate your attention and for allowing me to be a few minutes over today. Thank you so much. I hope to see you again, and we're here to help.
Thank you so much. Can we have a giant round of applause for Jackie and Angelin? I mean, really? Crazy. So in order to get you fed, we're going to move straight to that. If you haven't bought a raffle ticket and you see that there are a lot of things to raffle, now is your chance. You can get up, stretch your legs. They're going to start serving. So make sure your meal selection is sitting in your place so that they know what to give you. And then when dessert comes out, we're going to do the raffle. All right. So enjoy. Thank you.